Hey, what is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today we got a new movie that just came out today on HBO Max and in theaters. It's called Malignant by James Wan. Before we get into it, please make sure to like this video. If you like keeping up with all the new TV shows, all the new movies, we do all out here, so please make sure to subscribe. But let's get into Malignant. So like I said, Malignant is from director James Wan, and I'm a pretty big fan of James Wan. He's the director of Insidious, Conjuring, Saw. And if you've seen all the trailers, it's all promoting. The director of Saw, director of Insidious, director of Conjuring, really hyping up this movie because all those movies, I mean, for me, I love all those movies. I mean, The Conjuring is one of my favorite horror movies. Same with Insidious. I mean, two genuinely scary movies for me. Like, so if anyone actually ever asks me, like, what's the scariest movie I've ever seen? It's a toss-up between those two, but I always say Conjuring. Really just terrifying. Just the atmosphere is so good. Insidious is almost up there. It used to terrify me as a kid. And Saw is also really good too. It kind of changed everything for gore movies. And so I think James Wan is just one of the best horror directors out there, really. I mean, definitely one of the best ones working today. Maybe one of the best ever just because of what he's put out there. And I was excited for this movie because lately he's just been working on Aquaman and kind of like producing and help writing the other Conjuring universe movies. So I was happy to see him like get behind the camera again. You know, they're really hyping this movie up, Malignant. So, you know, for this movie, I was just really looking forward to it. So the story is about a woman named Madison, played by Annabelle Wallis, who you may know her from the other, if you watch the Conjuring Universe movie. She stars in Annabelle as well. She's also in X-Men First Class, if you recognize her face. But it's about Madison, and she has these visions of murders that occur by this black shape named Gabriel. And so as the movie goes along, you know, everything spirals out of control, and she finds out that these visions are actually happening in reality. It's sort of like this sleep paralysis, like transportation thing. Like she just like locks up, and her whole like environment changes, and she's like just watches this like black shape named Gabriel like kill someone. And then as the movie goes along, you know, there's all these different revelations, all these different things start happening. There's a spoiler-free review though, so I'm not going to spoil anything else. But I'm just going to tell you my thoughts on the movie. I mean, just from the beginning, it all just sort of felt off and iffy. I mean, the acting wasn't really all there. And it just really just kind of like throws you into this story, but it just felt iffy. You know, I don't really know how to explain it. Like the atmosphere wasn't there. I mean, James Wan is known for like his sound and his camera movements. You know, it has to like isolate his sounds really well and like really make it like emphasize it to really like scare you. He knows how to like turn the camera like right at the right moment, you know, show like a ghost, and then we look back and the person's gone. You know, we've seen that how many times in all the Insidious and Conjuring movies. But here, like in the Conjuring movie, he's able to like I said, create like a really good atmosphere. And say with Insidious 2, I didn't feel that atmosphere here. But I'm gonna be honest, I did watch on HBO Max. I didn't go to the theaters for it, and I did see it during the day. Now, obviously, that kind of affects a horror movie. I think a little bit. I mean, like, let's say I watched the Conjuring movie, right? Like, during the daytime. I would know, like, as I'm watching it, like, wow, if I watched it at night, you know, like, with a bunch of people, like, I'd be terrified right now, you know? So I'd be, like, regret watching it at daytime. For this, as I was watching it, you know, I was, like, I mean, my sound was up. It was still pretty dark out. I was by myself, and I just, like, didn't feel that. Like, I never thought, like, oh, if I watch this at night or, like, in the theaters, would it have really elevated the movie that much more? I don't think so. I think I still would have had a lot of the same problems. But if you're watching this and you've seen it in the theaters, please let me know like what you thought of it. You know, if it is a big difference, you know, because I did see actually the first Conjuring movie in theaters, and that was so scary. But I mean, let's just talk about Malignant more. So I will say the movie is pretty entertaining throughout. You know, I wasn't really that invested. But there are all these like different like revelations in the beginning, you know, like a couple of surprises that we don't know yet, you know, from the trailer or the story or anything I've said so far. You know, a couple of surprises here and there at stuff that happens, and you know, it's a couple of shocks, a couple of surprises. You know, it's like different things that add to the story. And I was like, okay, you know, I'm interested. I'm not engaged. I'm not invested. The movie never really sucked me in, but it's like there's enough shocks and surprises that does keep you entertained. Obviously, one of the most important things from this movie is this Gabriel character, right? This black shape. The movie focuses as like this like the main horror element, just like how Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers and Freddy Krueger, like all those, you know, great horror icons. Like I would say they weren't going for something like that, but there is a sense that, you know, this Gabriel is supposed to be like this, you know, horror character, you know, supposed to scare us. He didn't come off as scary for me at all. He kind of like uses technology to like scare people. He'll like flicker the lights, or he's able to like control the lights, and he'll straight up call people like on their phones and like talk to them, sort of like Scream, you know. So I just felt that was so like weird and like kind of dumb. Like this horror person can just use technology, and like I don't know. I just didn't buy it. Like I didn't care for it. Like all of a sudden the phone rings, it says like from unknown, you know, and Gabriel's like talking to them. I was like, this isn't scary. This is just kind of like dumb. I just didn't like it. Like for me, what I thought of Gabriel and like what the movie really makes you think of what he is throughout the movie is that he's some sort of like demonic being, right? Like this black shape thing. And we just see like too much of him. Like we'll straight up see him like just moving around too much, like stabbing people, like full on shape of him doing stuff, moving around. There's some really noticeably bad like CGI, like when they show him like moving around, like he like jumps around from here to there, and it's like you can just tell it's like CGI. And like maybe it's just because like I have like this love for like practical effects, maybe because I love like the 80s horror movies, that I'd rather see practical effects instead of like I literally noticed like CGI blood splatter, like I said, CGI of Gabriel like way too much. And I just wasn't really expecting that in this movie. You know, James Wan with like the Conjuring and Insidious movies, I hate bringing that back up. But it was like, I just felt like he never really used too much CGI in those. We didn't, like, the demonic beings that we see in those movies aren't really like in your face until maybe we get to like the Further and Insidious and stuff like that. But in Conjuring, it's out of like slow burn sort of feel, you know, like stuff happens, we don't see it. Maybe some demonic being will pop up, but it's like for a second. That's supposed to really terrify us. Like for this, we straight up like see Gabriel like in this black hood, you know, cape and everything, just like moving around. We see his, like, I don't want to spoil it, but like, I don't know. Like I would rather James Wan just have stuck to what he knew and like kept going with it. Maybe it's because Aquaman, you know, like Aquaman's a very digitally like infested movie. Obviously a lot of like action stuff, CGI in that movie. Maybe he wanted to incorporate some of those elements into a horror movie, which like I sort of appreciate in these times. You know, you can use CGI more and it looks better. But I just noticed it too much. I just don't really like CGI in my horror movies. At least not a lot of it. And I did notice it one too many times in here. So that's a negative for me. So overall, like for most of the movie, like I said, like, I wasn't that invested. It did feel sort of uncreative, like this technology monster, and like some of the revelations weren't that shocking. It just felt very cut and dry and like not really what I wanted. Like the atmosphere wasn't there. It just felt sort of like lazy for a James Wan horror movie. You know, I think because my expectations for this was like high for James Wan. You know, like I hailed him as like one of the king of horrors, so I did come in here wanting for like a comeback and say the horror genre, you know, he gets back to his roots, you know, kicks it, like nails it out of the park. So but yeah, like, so I thought it was kind of lazy, the story. I thought the whole technology thing was dumb, but there is this unexpected twist at the end of like who Gabriel actually is. And I do think that twist elevates the whole movie. You know, some things just make more sense. It's a very like WTF sort of twist. I didn't really see it coming. Maybe you will. I mean, I just looked up the definition of what Malignant actually is, and like looking at that now, I'm like, oh, it's kind of obvious. Like they're already kind of telling us from the title. But you know, if you don't know what the word means, don't even look it up because it does kind of spoil it. But I did think that was kind of dumb to have like your big twist sort of like in the title. I think. I mean, from what I read, maybe because I already saw the ending after, so I just connected it more. But I did think it was like very creative twist. Like I said, elevated the whole movie. Some people may think that twist is still dumb because like what happens after, like, it just looks really dumb. It gets kind of like really like action-y, like straight up like action, like stuff I wouldn't even never see in a James Wan horror movie. Like I wouldn't expect to see this sort of like crazy, like in your face sort of action that's happening. And the way it looks and portrayed, it does look dumb. Like I'm not gonna lie, it does look really dumb. But maybe people will just be on board with it. Maybe they'll like it and they'll just, you know, appreciate the twist and everything that happens. Maybe they'll like it. You know, it's up to you. But I'm gonna give you guys my rating now. I'm giving it a 2.8 out of 5. You know, if you want to round it up to a 3, maybe it sounds a little bit better. But like I said, I was expecting a little bit more from James Wan. I never really felt scared. I wasn't scared, you know. Maybe that was because of my environment, maybe. But even then, I still, like I said, don't think a really good horror environment would have helped it that much. So yeah, I wasn't invested, but it is entertaining enough. Like I said, like it's entertaining. You know, the story isn't the worst part of the movie. I think it's just the horror elements aren't really there. But yeah, I've seen similar reviews. I think everyone kind of has the same sort of feelings about the movie. I think most people maybe like it more than I did. I saw some good reviews out there, but nothing great. I haven't seen any great reviews yet. But yeah, you know, you guys may end up liking it more than I did. If you've seen it already, let me know what you thought. If you enjoyed it, if you didn't like it, I could see some people not liking it at all. Some maybe just having a good time with it. But let me know, please. And if you like this video, please like the video. If you're new here, please subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video.